2 employees, 5 videos, 1 sponge, and a scandal that nearly killed a 50-year-old brand in 72 hours. This is the Business Blackbook, where billion-dollar empires are built and collapse. They didn't steal millions. They didn't forge documents. They didn't launder money through shell companies in the Cayman Islands. They did something far more primitive, far more visceral. They tampered with the food, and they filmed it. Let's go back to the spring of 2009, a time when social media was still in its awkward adolescence, when YouTube was only 4 years old, when a viral video was still a novelty, a curiosity, something your coworker forwarded you in an email with 3 exclamation marks. The world had not yet learned what it meant for a video to truly escape. But 2 employees at a small Domino's franchise in Conover, North Carolina, were about to teach everyone that lesson the hard way. Their names were Michael and Christy. And to look at them, you would see exactly what you expected to see. 2 ordinary fast food workers, aprons on, caps tilted. The kind of people you walk past every single day of your life without a second thought. That invisibility was their greatest weapon. Now, before we go any further, I want you to understand something about trust. Every single time you order food from any establishment, you are entering into an invisible contract. You hand over your money, and in return, you trust completely and without verification that the person on the other side of that kitchen wall will not harm you. You don't watch them. You can't see them. You simply believe. That belief is the foundation of the entire food service industry. It is worth, conservatively, hundreds of billions of dollars globally. Entire empires, Domino's included, are built on it. And Michael and Christy were about to light a match to it. The first video they posted was almost innocent, titled Customer Change. It was 56 seconds of Christy nagging Michael about how long he was taking to get change for a drive-through customer. 45 seconds in, he finally makes it back. The customer gets their change. End scene. Dull. Forgettable. The kind of behind-the-scenes peek that makes you almost feel warmly toward your local fast food workers. But that was the setup. Because what followed was something else entirely. On page 1 of the ledger, we find a detail so small, so seemingly harmless, that almost everyone who saw it first laughed. The second video began with Michael holding up a banana pepper, smiling at the camera, and then he stuck it up his nose, pulled it out, tossed it in the trash, and without washing his hands, wrapped sandwiches for customers. The crowd in that back kitchen laughed. Christy laughed. Michael laughed. But somewhere out there, a customer was eating that sandwich, and they had absolutely no idea. Now, if you are feeling a creeping sense of unease right now, good, hold on to it, because that unease is the point. That is the precise texture of what Domino's as a company was about to feel at a scale of millions. But the banana pepper was just the opening act. In the third video, Michael took a piece of cheese, looked directly into the camera with the particular grin of someone who believes they are far funnier than they actually are, and placed that cheese directly into his nostril, then put it on a sandwich for a paying customer. Here is where the story stops being about 2 reckless employees in a small town kitchen and starts being about something far larger. Because the question you have to ask yourself is not just who is the person doing this? The question is, how many times has something like this happened without a camera? That question, once it enters the public consciousness, does not leave. It metastasizes. It reaches into every drive-through window, every delivery box, every steaming slice you have ever trusted without a second thought. And that question was already spreading across the internet like fire through dry paper. By the time the fourth video surfaced, Michael had graduated from novelty to genuine danger. He loaded up a full, deliberate sneeze and discharged it directly onto cheese bread that was about to be served to a customer. And as if to make his intentions absolutely crystalline, he then plunged his finger into the food, pressing it deeper, burying whatever was on it. This was not a prank anymore. Streptococcus, Staphylococcus aureus, the influenza virus. These are not abstract medical labels. These are the names of the invisible passengers that travel inside a human sneeze at roughly 160 kilometers per hour, and they had just been delivered directly into food, bound for a human being who had done nothing wrong except want dinner. But the fourth video was not the worst. Nothing could prepare the internet for the fifth. In a clip so brief, so casually horrifying, it almost defied comprehension, Michael unbuckled his pants in the kitchen, picked up a preparation sponge, used it to clean between his legs, then used that same sponge to wipe down a food preparation tray. E. coli, salmonella, fecal coliform bacteria. These organisms are not abstract threats. They do not negotiate. When introduced into the human gastrointestinal system in sufficient quantities, they begin a process of systematic destruction. Severe cramps, hemorrhagic diarrhea, kidney failure, and in the most vulnerable cases, death. And somewhere out there, a customer may have eaten from that tray. Now I need to tell you about a man named J.C. Smith, because some of you might think this is all theoretical, a worst-case scenario, the kind of thing that gets exaggerated for drama. J.C. was elderly. He had been married to his wife Doris for 70 years. They had a quiet, beautiful, utterly unremarkable tradition. Dinner at McDonald's. Same order every time. A quarter pounder. One night in late September of 2024, JC and Doris went out for their meal. Within days, JC was hospitalized, dehydrated, weakened. He pulled through. Doctor sent him home. Then they went back to the same McDonald's. Same order. This time, the diagnosis was confirmed. E. coli 0157H7. The strain that does not let everyone walk out of the hospital. J.C. Smith died on October 20th. Doris had eaten the same meal. Same restaurant, same table. She was fine. Because Doris did not like onions. She picked them off and gave them to JC. The contamination had been in the onions supplied by a farm in California. 90 people across 13 states fell ill. One did not survive. That is what tampered food looks like when the consequences are allowed to complete their journey. And in Conover, North Carolina, those consequences were still loading. Now, here is the part of the story that reveals just how fragile the modern brand truly is. The 5 videos were uploaded to YouTube. At first, they barely registered. A few hundred views. A few disgusted comments. The kind of thing that might have died quietly on a Tuesday afternoon in 2009. But the internet was watching. A man named Jeremy Hooper, founder of a site called goodulu.org, stumbled onto the videos. He immediately understood what he was looking at. Not just misconduct, not just gross behavior. He was looking at a detonation waiting for a trigger. He emailed Tim McIntyre, Domino's Vice President of Communications, with a message of 4 words. You need to see this. Within 30 minutes of that email landing in McIntyre's inbox, Domino's entire internal crisis team had mobilized. Their first objective was surgical and immediate. Get the videos off YouTube. But here is where the machine revealed its first crack. In 2009, YouTube required the consent of the original uploader to remove a video, and Michael and Christy were not in a cooperative mood, so the videos stayed up, and they spread, and they multiplied. In 24 hours, the view count jumped from 20,000 to 760,000. The next day, it crossed 1 million. Major news networks picked it up. CNN, Fox, newspapers across the country. What had begun as a grimy inside joke in a small-town kitchen was now a national story. This is on page 17 of the ledger, and the entry reads simply, "The cost of visibility." Because here is what the executives at Domino's were learning in real time, and what every brand operating in the digital age must eventually reckon with. You do not control your reputation anymore. You never did. But in the analog world, a local scandal stayed local. A franchise embarrassment was contained by geography, by the morning paper, by the limited reach of gossip. In the digital world, there are no walls. 1 video, 2 employees, 1 kitchen in North Carolina, and the entire Domino's brand, 125,000 employees across 60 countries, a business built over nearly half a century, was on trial. The internet, meanwhile, had appointed itself detective. And the internet is extremely good at that job. 2 sharp-eyed readers of a consumer blog called Consumerist, Amy Wilson and her boyfriend Jonathan Drake, noticed something in the background of one of the videos, a Jack-in-the-Box sign, visible through the drive-through window. They cross-referenced Google satellite images, looking for every location in America where a Domino's and a Jack-in-the-Box existed in close proximity. It narrowed the field, but not enough. Then a computer consultant from northern Kentucky named Paris Miller found a different angle. He traced the YouTube uploader's internet connection, geographically, digitally, and it pointed to one town, Conover, North Carolina. There was one Domino's in Conover. It was near a Jack-in-the-Box. The smoking gun. The information was forwarded to Tim McIntyre the same day. The franchise owner was reached that morning. McIntyre later wrote that the man was, quote, dumbfounded. Within hours, Michael and Christy were terminated. Felony warrants were issued for their arrest. The store was temporarily shut down and sanitized under the supervision of the North Carolina Department of Health. But the damage was not the kind that bleach removes. 2 days after the videos went viral, Patrick Doyle, president of Domino's USA, did something that was, at the time, almost unprecedented in corporate crisis management. He went on camera. No polished statement, no carefully worded press release filtered through 6 layers of legal review. He sat down in front of a camera on YouTube, the very platform that had wounded him, and spoke directly to the public. He condemned the employees. He outlined every action Domino's had taken. He promised stricter hiring protocols, more audits, more accountability. And then he said something that every CEO facing a public crisis should be required to memorize. He acknowledged that consumer trust, once broken, is not repaired by statements. It is repaired by time and by proof. But for the franchise in Conover, time had already run out. Even after a full sanitization, customers could not shake what they had seen. The images were burned into memory. By September of 2009, just months after the incident, the location closed permanently. An entire business gone. Employees out of work. A franchise owner who had nothing to do with Michael and Christie's actions, paying the final price for them. On April 15th, Michael and Christie turned themselves in. Bond was set at $7,500 each. Michael entered his plea on March 9th, 2010. He acknowledged sufficient evidence to convict. 6 months in jail, 2 years supervised probation, $1,000 in court fees, permanent ban from all Domino's restaurants, permanent order to stay away from Christie. He told the court it was immature, downright stupid. He was not wrong. Christie struck a deal in November of 2010. Prior criminal record, misdemeanor and theft charges already on the books. The deal landed her 45 days suspended, 18 months probation, 200 hours of community service, over $1,000 in attorney fees, and a permanent ban from working in any food-related industry. She also had to surrender the original video files to law enforcement, and she was barred from speaking publicly about the case. Now here is the lesson that the ledger records on its final page. Not the legal lesson, not the food safety lecture. Those are obvious. The deeper lesson. Michael and Christie did not set out to destroy a 50-year-old brand. They set out to get a laugh, to entertain each other in a dull shift in a small kitchen in a small town. They uploaded 5 videos to a platform that 4 years earlier had not existed, and they genuinely believed, as most people who have never truly understood the internet believe, that it would stay small, stay contained, stay theirs. It did not. Because nothing on the internet stays small. Nothing stays contained. Nothing stays yours. The digital world does not forget. It does not forgive. And it does not sleep. And that is a fact worth understanding, whether you are a bored fast food worker looking for a laugh or a billion-dollar corporation whose entire value proposition rests on the invisible trust of every customer who places an order and simply believes. The franchise in Conover is gone. The brand survived. But the scar in the public memory of what happens behind those kitchen doors, that scar has never fully faded. And with that, the Black Book closes. Subscribe, and we will open the next page soon.